Justin Gaethje is the undisputed UFC lightweight champion of the world. Let that settle for a moment. The man who was a 5-to-1 underdog, the man who walked into the White House card as the fighter most analysts had written off, the man who told the media he expected a 25-minute war and that he was going to dig deeper than he had ever dug, that man just defeated Ilia Topuria by TKO after the 4th round, via corner stoppage, on the south lawn of the White House, in front of the most globally distributed audience in the history of mixed martial arts. And in perhaps the most fitting conclusion possible for a fighter who has built his entire career on proving people wrong, the celebration of America's 250th birthday ended with an American on top. Topuria was transported to the hospital after the fight. His corner made the call to stop it after 4 rounds, which tells you everything you need to know about what those 4 rounds produced. The man who said there would never be a 2nd or 3rd round, who told Gaethje to his face that the difference between them was that Gaethje was going to try to hurt him and Topuria was actually going to do it, that man went 4 rounds, absorbed the kind of punishment that Gaethje is uniquely equipped to deliver, and had his corner make the decision that he could not continue. Gaethje's own post-fight comments told the complete story from the inside. Topuria rocked his chin. Topuria smoked his liver. Gaethje told himself going in that he was going to lose, that he was going to get embarrassed, so that he could reach his most primal competitive state and find something he would not have found otherwise. He found it. And when he looked at his own face after the fight and said something is wrong with it and it needs to be studied, that is Justin Gaethje at his most honest, which is also Justin Gaethje at his most magnificent. The reactions from across the sport were immediate, and they captured the genuine shock of what had just happened. Alexander Volkanovski, who knows better than almost anyone what it feels like to be finished by Topuria, wrote that it was absolutely insane and well played to Dana and Trump. Tim Welch simply said holy, followed by Gaethje's name. Ariel Helwani wrote the most complete summation. The unlikely career of Justin Gaethje culminates in the unlikeliest of spots for a fight, that he earned this and deserves his flowers. Max Holloway, the man who Topuria finished with the same kind of cold precision that most people expected to see applied to Gaethje, wrote just 2 words, the highlight. Kevin Holland said it was entertaining as whatever he said next. And Francis Ngannou, the former heavyweight champion who understands what it means to carry undisputed power into the cage and still be stopped, wrote simply, never count Justin out. Arman Tsarukyan, who is now the next in line for a title shot against a champion he posted a bet on, wrote that Topuria was no mosses with a face emoji. The lightest possible reaction to a heavyweight outcome. Gaethje's mindset revelation in the post-fight is worth examining at length because it reframes the entire tactical discussion that preceded this fight. The analytical community spent weeks building the case for why Topuria was going to finish him. The speed advantage, the precision, the front-loaded power, the calm in the chaos philosophy, the first-round knockout prediction. Gaethje's response to all of that, internally, was to accept it. He told himself he was going to lose. He told himself he was going to get embarrassed. And in doing so, he removed the psychological weight of the outcome from the equation entirely and replaced it with nothing but the primal competitive instinct that has defined every fight of his career. He went in with no ego investment in the result and maximum investment in the process. And when Topuria hit him hard enough to rock him, which Gaethje confirmed happened, there was nothing in his psychological makeup that interpreted that as the beginning of the end. It was just information. Information he processed and responded to by doing the only thing Justin Gaethje knows how to do, which is keeping coming forward until either the fight ends or he finds the opening he needs. The corner stoppage after the 4th round is going to be discussed for a long time. Topuria's corner made the right call. A fighter going to the hospital after a fight is not a theoretical risk, it is a real one, and the people in his corner made a decision that prioritized his long-term well-being over the outcome of a fight. But the fact that it happened at all, that Ilia Topuria, the undefeated champion who had never been tested the way Gaethje tested him, was in a position where his corner needed to make that call, is the story that rewrites the entire narrative of who these fighters are and what they are capable of. Now let's go through the rest of the card, because the White House event produced significant results across every fight, and the full picture of the night is even more remarkable than the main event finish alone suggests. Diego Lopez defeated Steve Garcia by knockout in the 2nd round. Garcia was winning the 1st round, which was the expected trajectory for a fighter whose aggression and striking speed had produced 6 stoppage wins in 7 fights. Lopez came back in the 2nd, turned the fight into a war on his own terms, and found the finish. The MMA community's reaction was universal shock at the quality of the comeback. Ariel Helwani called it tremendous. Henry Cejudo called it a comeback. The MMA guru made the specific observation that Ruffy and Lopez were the perfect choices for this card. Fighters with the style and the temperament to produce the kind of entertainment that a globally broadcast event requires from its undercard. Lopez's post-fight comments revealed a man who was genuinely overwhelmed by the moment. He described it as the most important card of his career, talked about moving to 155 to fill out his body, and said he loves food too much for the 145 cut. A win at the White House on the main card opens doors that a win anywhere else in the sport simply does not. Bo Nickel defeated Kyle Dawkins by TKO in the first round, which was the expected result but was delivered with a level of finishing ability that silenced anyone who had questions about whether Nickel's improvement across all areas of his game was translating. The 85,000 people at the Ellipse, by Nickel's own description, were one of the most insane environments he had ever competed in front of. He called MMA fans insane in the best possible way. He said his wrestling base is something nobody on the roster can hang with, and that his striking is starting to catch up to the level he needs it to be. He said he does not care who they give him next. He is going straight to the top and coming for the belt. After the loss to Reiner de Ritter a year ago, the White House performance closes that chapter completely. Mauricio Ruffy defeated Michael Chandler by TKO in the first round. The MMA guru described him as moving like a prime featherweight Conor McGregor on the White House lawn, which is either the highest compliment available in this sport right now or the most loaded comparison depending on your perspective. The performance was systematic, clean, and exactly what the analytical framework for this fight had projected. Chandler's aggressive forward style running directly into Ruffy's reach, range, and dynamic finishing ability without finding enough of the early window to change the fight before the damage accumulated beyond recovery. Chandler has now won 2 of his last 8 UFC fights. The reactions from across the sport were a mixture of respect for his career and a consensus that this is the right moment to step away. Chael Sonnen put it cleanly, "Great career, let's wrap it up." After the fight, Ruffy proposed to his girlfriend on the White House lawn, which is either the most romantic or the most completely on-brand moment of the entire event depending on your disposition toward fighters who propose to their partners immediately after finishing someone at the president's residence. Josh Hokett defeated Derek Lewis by TKO in the second round, which was the result that the youth and athleticism analysis predicted and which Lewis's power almost interrupted in exactly the way that the other side of that analysis warned about. Hokett was smart. His own post-fight words confirmed that he understood the danger of a dogfight with a man whose single punch has ended careers, and he was disciplined about not putting himself in that position unnecessarily. He dominated the grappling in round 1, beat Lewis up in round 2, and got the finish. His immediate post-fight call-out of Alex Pereira, specifically the offer to Shama on his mama, a phrase that has now become the most recurring piece of trash talk on this card, confirmed that the Pereira rivalry is what he is organizing his entire division ambitions around. Hokett at 10-0 and 4-0 in the UFC, fresh off a White House performance, is now one of the genuinely interesting heavyweight stories in the sport. Sean O'Malley defeated Iman Zahabi by TKO in the second round, snapping Zahabi's 7-fight winning streak. Zahabi's camp had built a compelling case for the upset, and the early rounds apparently showed enough of the unconventional striking and grappling depth that had produced 7 consecutive wins. But O'Malley's striking quality, his ability to control range, and his power through the combinations proved too much over the distance. His salute to the crowd as Zahabi fell to the canvas is already the image people are sharing. His immediate post-fight demand for Peter Yan as his next opponent is the most logical next step for a fighter who has stated openly that he does not expect to be next in line for the title fight regardless of this result. Making a statement against a top-ranked opponent in the White House setting is the kind of performance that changes those conversations. The co-main event produced the most controversy of the night and the most significant upset from an expected result standpoint. Cyril Gane defeated Alex Pereira by TKO in the second round to become the interim heavyweight champion. And the way he got there is already the subject of active debate across the MMA community. Multiple observers, including Ariel Helwani and Adam Feldman, 2 of the most respected journalists in the sport, raised the question of whether some of Gane's hammer fists and elbows landed on the back of Pereira's head. The MMA guru went further, calling Gane the dirtiest fighter in UFC history and noting that fighters have died from back-of-the-head shots in combat sports. John Jones posted on Instagram wearing a goat necklace and congratulating Gane while describing himself as the actual goat, which is exactly the John Jones response you would expect in exactly the circumstances you would expect it. Francis Ngannou, the lineal heavyweight champion in his own self-description, congratulated Gane with the specific designation of lineal champ, which is the most Francis Ngannou thing possible to do in this moment. Pereira's post-fight statement that he is unsure whether he will remain at heavyweight that he needs to sit down with his team before making any decisions, is the first time in his UFC career that a loss has created genuine uncertainty about his path forward. He weighed in at 251 pounds. Josh Hokett, watching from the corner area, made the specific observation that 251 might have been too heavy, that Pereira may have gotten caught up in the heavyweight mentality of being big rather than maintaining the attributes of speed and comfort at a weight he was used to. That is a sharp observation from a man who competes at that weight naturally and who understands what the difference between natural and acquired heavyweight conditioning looks like from the inside. Gaethje called out Tom Aspinall immediately and pushed for a title unification bout in Paris in September. Aspinall, according to social media, may have changed his phone number and moved to an undisclosed location. That joke covers a real competitive reality. Aspinall, who has been waiting for the opportunity to be in the Octagon with Gaethje, is now in line for a fight that Gaethje is clearly ready and motivated for. The heavyweight title picture is cleaner now than it has been since the Aspinall injury created the interim situation in the first place. And finally, Sean Strickland spent part of the night being escorted out of the White House grounds by security after fans recognized him, was apparently charged with disorderly conduct, and delivered a live video from what appeared to be in police custody that he described as potentially going to jail, though he was uncertain about what disorderly conduct actually meant as a legal category. He thanked his fans for their support after he was banned from the event, said it meant everything to him, and signed off from what appeared to be a very unusual end to what was already an unusual fight week. This is exactly the version of events that a Sean Strickland experience at the White House was always going to produce. Here is the complete picture of UFC Freedom 250. Justin Gaethje is the undisputed lightweight champion of the world. Cyril Gaethje is the interim heavyweight champion with unification business immediately available in Paris. The White House card delivered everything it promised in terms of production, atmosphere, and competitive drama, and then delivered something it did not promise: the most significant upset on the main event in recent memory. The billion viewers who tuned in across every platform watched a night that will be referenced for as long as this sport exists. And somewhere, being treated at a hospital, is the man who was supposed to make it easy, carrying the results of a night that proved, one more time, that Justin Gaethje and easy are two words that have never belonged in the same sentence.